something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
G'day folks, how are you? Hope you're doing all right tonight, and welcome to a show by myself for the first time in a while. Yes, Vince departed, very early this morning. I was going to start the show by being asleep. I think 3:30, 3:15 we got out of bed and managed him to get to the airport on time. I felt pretty awful because Vince put in a mammoth effort while he was here. Particularly on the lights, but in a couple of other areas as well. He's just a wonderful gem of a human being, and I can't recommend his services to you highly enough if you're in the IT game. I felt really bad that, he's come to Queensland for a week, the first time since he was 12, and he didn't even get to see a beach. So you'll be happy to know that he did get to see a beach at 4:30 this morning. Now, I want you to know that he was so happy that he was seeing the beach. He thought we were taking a video. That's why his hand is waving. He did get a bit smart and show that he could wave both hands, the left hand as well, and realized it was a picture then. Didn't have to do the overjoyed waving part. But he was overjoyed. And for those folks who said he didn't get to see Surfers Paradise, if you look over his blurry hand, that is Surfers Paradise in the background. In fact, his fingers are just about over downtown Surfers. The large white building you can see toward the left of his hand is Q1, and we were at the inimitable and very lovely Burleigh Beach. So where if there's no flags, there's no swimming. That is for a very good reason. Always swim between the flags whenever you swim on a beach, folks, particularly on the Queensland ones. They look absolutely spectacular, even at 4:30 in the morning. But they're still bloody dangerous indeed. So bear that in mind if you are going to go swimming. A couple of interesting things happening in the world. This was sent to me. I haven't had time to go digging through to find out how truthful this is. So don't go and get too socially excited about it. But it does appear that Google Cloud accidentally deleted a $125 billion Australian pension fund. Now, the problem with this article for mine is we don't call them Australian pension funds. I don't think this is sort of an American standard, but this is an American article. I haven't heard of anybody screaming today that their pension fund has disappeared, their super fund, as we would call it. But have you checked yours today? Maybe you won't want to do that. Do you think? I reckon there might be half a chance it's worth having a look at. I haven't spoken to my super fund just yet. Others are doing that on my behalf at the moment. What's the price of silver doing? $47.44. So a little down from its $48.02 yesterday when we were speaking with Paul from Ainsley, but still a very healthy $47.44. It hasn't dropped much at all. And the spot price of silver on the ainsleyBullion.com.au website is $3,628.23. Wouldn't it be nice to have a few of those stashed away at the moment, particularly if you've owned them for a little while, and I know many of you have. That's got to make you feel pretty good. But let's not get too excited about it. As Paul pointed out yesterday, it is the silver to gold ratio that matters. And at the moment, it'll take 76 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. So that ratio has got to come down to around 40 before we will hit those high marks of $48 an ounce of silver. And it will certainly be a big boon if that happens. And of course, you'll want to be hovering on the market at the time, but it might go bigger. That's what everybody's saying. So same for gold. It's going to rise a little bit too. And Bitcoin, following gold and silver, is what it does. So you're going to have to make your own wealth in this country, folks. Now, you can do it, any number of ways. You can Bitcoin it. You can go forward, get your super out. And certainly if that story about a Google Cloud mishap and pension fund disappearing is actually true, then there might be a few furrowed brows around Australian homes when they start to realise that that's where their super has gone. That's how easy it will be. And of course, the government introduced the Digital Identity Bill the other day with the backing of the Teals and a number of yellow-spined independents, or bribed independents, controlled independents. Do we dare say potentially pedophilic independents? Because surely the only way any decent human being would vote against everything their constituents would have been telling them is if they've done something bad in their life and it's being held over them. Because it doesn't make sense. It makes even less sense that those lying, cheating bastards who are in that place in Canberra decided to hold this vote for the House of Representatives, not in the House of Representatives, but in the federal house, or the federal room it's called, which is just off the House of Representatives. It's a bit smaller, quite a bit smaller, and of course has much less media and no public access as far as I'm aware. If you want to read more about that, you can check that story out in the Cairns News. There is a lot of great articles at Cairns News at the moment, and I highly recommend that you go and check them out. Cairnsnews.org is the website, and every day there is not one, but sometimes a number of great stories that pop up on there. Today, free renewable energy inventors all seem to die is one of their big stories, and New Zealand's anti-child grooming and mutilation conference reveals the grip of trans mafia. So these are stories you're not going to hear on or read about anywhere else. Go and check them out, cairnsnews.org. And I'm looking forward to catching up with those guys when we head further, I hope, north in the not too distant future. There are some big events happening up north over the next few months, and we'd like to be part of that. So if you have an opportunity for an event that you'd like to live stream, you haven't already got a live streaming partner, give us a call. We might be able to help you out with doing that, and might be able to do a few other little bits and pieces for you too. It won't just be a live stream. FBN Media is moving along, bubbling along, I think is the way. It's probably a very slow bubble and a very minor bubble, if I have to be completely honest. But we are bubbling, and bubble, toil and trouble we will, to make this thing a reality for us all. In our lunch that we had on Sunday on the Gold Coast with Vince, he didn't get to see the ocean at all, but he did get to meet some of you, absolutely wonderful folks that follow this show. One of the resounding things that we talked about were ideas for the future, not just for this show, but for FBN Media. And a couple of the things that came out of that will be making their way to this show and to others, we hope, within the FBN Media family once that family grows a little bit. And we are fully prepared to accept them. And of course, part of that is having you subscribe to FBN Media at YouTube. You can also subscribe to VOFHQ on YouTube as well. That's another channel, which we are trying to set up because, I seem to be handing one of my YouTube channels back, which is the Voy Sea Freedom one. But the rest, can't monetize anything. So just grateful to have some of those channels back, because there are many people who found one, not all the channels. So sometimes I've lost a few viewers because one of those channels has been taken down. They usually find their way to one of the other ones. So hopefully that's how you're feeling at the moment too. Gina Rinehart has come out today and taken to Albanese fairly solidly. Well, not as solidly as I would like her to do, but she has come out with some very good suggestions, mainly that the idea of taxing the people of Australia more only to give it back in the form of handouts is bloody idiotic. It is stupid. It is ridiculous. Oh, wait, it's Labor. That's how that works. Now, Gina has access to some of the best accounting and economic brains in the world, right? They follow the markets this, they follow the markets that, they follow the politics, they follow everything. We have Albanese and Jim the Undertaker as our treasurer, who supposedly has some form of economics training, but he's another one of these typical politicians who's never had a real job. Went to university, did a course, but really, may have passed the course, majored in undermining sleaze and Labor political power. That's how they all got their jobs. Don't think we can expect much help from Alboslease, but you never know. Gina Rinehart for Prime Minister could work out well, although she wouldn't do it, doesn't pay enough. She'd probably have to, it would be a Trump thing, wouldn't it? She'd have to divest herself of all her interests, and she'd have to live back in Australia rather than on the world. I don't know how much time she spends on the world anymore. You remember that boat? She had one of the apartments on board the world. So the world simply sails the world, and those who own the apartments can get on and off whenever they like. So not a bad sort of existence, particularly if you like cruising, which I've only ever had one experience of, but I must say it was a very, very pleasant experience. Unpleasant experiences. We've all had them, some more recently than others, and I would count myself among those. I hope you and your unpleasant experience are pushing along and moving forward. That's all we can do when we have these sorts of unpleasant experiences. It's nice to see that some of the unpleasant experiences that have been dished out to certain people in the American sphere of politics, of media and other areas, might just be coming back to them. Now, you might have heard of a bloke called Ivan Raiklin. Now, Ivan is an ex-Green Beret and has made the news. You may have seen his, I think it's close to 15-minute chat with a public radio person. She caught him at some event, and after he grilled her about where she was from and who she worked with and who sponsored the show, etc., he gave on to give her and us a great deal of information. Now, whether or not she understood or took too much from it, I don't know. But he was very, very clear in what is planned. And what is planned is for his list. He has a list of people that he believes are responsible for a great number of things. And this list is to be confirmed by Elon Musk. Now, why would this guy, Ivan Raiklin, and Elon Musk be confirming anything together? Well, I'm not sure that Ivan knows Elon Musk or vice versa. Pardon me. But I think that Elon Musk is not telling us everything, if in fact it is Elon Musk. However, the story goes that Elon Musk, when he acquired Twitter, also acquired the entire library and back history of every tweet in the world. Now, that also includes private messages sent using that platform. So he has everything between government officials and Twitterati and the Twitter fixers and other social media engineers. He's got it all. He knows everybody that was involved, everybody who set a footprint in there. Now, this other guy, Ivan Raiklin, is claiming similar knowledge. And has claimed to have the list. He also claims that as a forced retired from the Defense Forces of the USA because he refused to accept the jibbity jab, he and 80,000 other service personnel from the Defense Forces and the police who stepped away from their jobs because they refused to be coerced now stand ready to be deputized by the US Constitutional Sheriff's Department. Now, we spoke about this some years ago. The US Constitutional Sheriffs are a law, quite literally, unto themselves. They have extensive powers over and above local law enforcement. They are senior to them in every way. And they have a direct to a federal court system way of operating. Now, there is no point activating 80,000 people and sending them out to go and arrest what some are saying are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who've been involved in this over time, until you have some form of judiciary you can trust to hear impartially and to judge fairly. Now, the crimes that these people on this purported list have committed are treason, amongst others, but every one of them has essentially committed treason as one of the crimes they'll be charged with. This gentleman, Ivan Raiklin, seems very, very, very motivated. And if I'm any reader of body language, I believe every word he's saying. I think very able to carry out what he is terming live streamed SWAT raids on these people, just the same as they carried them out on members of the Trump administration and his friends. Steve Bannon, middle of the night, live streamed and dragged out of his house. Roger Stone was probably the big one, the first one. That was all live streamed, cameras everywhere, bloody hours and hours and hours of coverage of that raid and the embarrassment and everything that went along with those sorts of things to all of the people that they raided. This gentleman is suggesting that all that's coming back tenfold. And you set the precedent. You're the one that wanted to do it all publicly, so we're going to do it all publicly. And that's what the public demands. We've all been saying we have to see something happening, haven't we? I agree. We do have to see something happening. And I would hope that we'll see it soon. But I always want to, when I say I want to see it soon, I want to temper that by saying I want to see it safely. When this goes, the normies are going to think all sorts of weird shit's going on, including coups and, civil wars and all that. And if you, me, or others come out in support of what's going on, they're going to look at us like we are co-conspirators in that revolution. So just be a bit wary of that when you wander around. Of course, we are not into revolution. We are not into raising our pitchforks or any other weapon we might have available to us and charging at the government with it. I think that would be the greatest way to get ourselves killed. Well, they'd be happy either way. It costs them probably just as much to shoot us as it does to jab us with the jibbity jabs. So they get us one way or the other. The jibbity jab's just going to take a little bit longer. By that time, I don't think the government will care how long it takes. We will be a problem and they will come looking. So be aware of that, I think, going forward. Do you want to see the list? Here's the list. Now, the list is extensive, I will have to say. I'll try and blow this up so you can see a few of the names. Oops. So the first box, or the first group of names, as you can see, are all to do with the Flynn unmasking. Samantha Power at the very top, James Clapper, Brennan is there, John Brennan, Patrick Conlon is there. A little further down, you'll find James Comey is there. Everybody who touched the fleet was involved in the Flynn unmasking, including 8 others yet to be identified. If there were 8 more, I don't know how they managed to identify them. The Biden laptop, John Brennan, Jim Clapper, Mike Hayden, just keeps going on. Leon Panetta. So many American politicians involved in hiding that, and American media types. It goes into the 2020 election. You can see some of the names there. Mitt Romney, Rona McDaniel. These are names that we were hearing about a little while ago. Brad Raffensperger, remember him? We were hearing a lot about these guys. Michael Bloomberg. Where are they today? What are they doing today? When was the last time you heard anything out of Barack Obama or Michelle Obama? The entire Obama Foundation is on the list. So too, I suspect, I haven't looked through the whole lot, but I suspect the entire Clinton Foundation will be on the list. Bill and Hillary certainly are mentioned on there. Same with the Podesta brothers, horrible friggin' pedophiles that they are. So Bruce Orr, his wife Nellie, who played a big role in the 2016 election issues, Jim Baker, who became the legal counsel for Twitter. Or was that James Baker? Yeah, same guy. Jim and James, same bloke. He was also involved in the Crossfire Hurricane bullshit, which of course was the listening to that fellow who was running for the election and wound up winning it in 2016, trying to avoid the issues of the AI picking up names. I've just realised some of the things I've said here is probably going against community standards. So don't forget, we are on Rumble, Voice of Freedom. If you don't find me anywhere on YouTube tomorrow, that'll be why. God, all going well. Lindsey Graham is another name on that list there, and I'm surprised it's only involved in just that particular Crossfire Hurricane operation. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see it pop up again in a few other ones. The Ukraine whistleblower stuff, the impeachment managers. These were the people who went after that fella twice, I think it was, and failed twice while he was sitting in office. All of these people have been named and will, according to Ivan Raiklin, be publicly arrested under live-streamed SWAT conditions. I got to say, if there is popcorn to be had, that wouldn't be a bad day to have it. More impeachment managers, the J6 police force. Now, this will be interesting because the J6 stands for January 6. The police forces involved with the state capitol police, and there is another Washington, D.C. sort of police version, but I dare say there'll be a few of those coppers involved too, and maybe from other jurisdictions they might have brought in Virginia. The interesting one for me is Pelosi. These are all the politicians that are involved, and their other little henchmen and women. This is one hell of an extensive list. The J6 committee, obviously, if you watched any of that, you saw it for the clown show that it actually was. The witnesses who lied to the January 6 committee are all listed there. Now, this gets into the problems of being able to count those special pieces of paper that you've got to lodge once every 4 years. And these are the people involved with Fullerton County. Here are the folks who were involved in putting together the greatest scam of the last 4 years. Now, the list just goes on and on and on and on and on. If you want to go through the whole thing yourself, by all means. I've asked Vince. I'm not sure if he's actually home yet. I hope he is. Otherwise, he'll be asleep on the other side, on the side of the road somewhere. But I've asked Vince if he would post that up on the Voice of Freedom website. So it will go up, if not right now, it will go up in the not too distant future. And you'll be able to go through that list yourself and see whether or not there is anything good, bad, or indifferent for your way of feelings there. Okay, let's get into the chat and have a bit of a look and see who got in here first tonight. Oh, there's a few folks in here tonight. I've got to scroll up 3 or 4 or 5, 6, plenty of times. J1, long time since you've been first one in the room. Hope you're going well. Sab, good to see you in too, brother. Salty Convict, the personal accountant. G'day, Brett. Nice to have you in. Sandy, you wonderful lady. I was talking donkeys the other day. Now, I know you don't give away your donkeys, but we have a home for some donkeys, and we need some transport for donkeys. We have found donkeys, brand new ones being, bought, but I don't know whether or not you might have donkeys. So you and I, we got to talk. Sandy, in case you don't know, is involved with the Australian Donkey Sanctuary, a absolutely magnificent organisation. You can go and check them out online and give them a donation, because without your support, it's very difficult to look after a huge amount of donkeys. And sometimes that number can stretch to over 300. I don't know if that's how many they got on the property at the moment between she and Baz, but I do know May is back on the property. So unless she's gone on another little holiday. So I've got to come down and see May and catch up. G'day, Andrew. Hope you're going well. Paul, nice to see you in the show too. Alan and a few others. Grant, nice to have you in. Zippy's in. Michelle, one of our wonderful admins. And I'm looking down to see whether or not Sunflower's made it in tonight. She might be busy doing other things. And I haven't seen Aussie Sue for a little while. So I trust all things going well in Aussie Sue's world. Just trying to have a bit of a look here. Gina needs to give the People's Resources money back. Yeah, Stu, I reckon you might be half on that. I think anybody who is raping the country's resources and gaining huge benefit out of it does need to be giving the people their share of it. They would argue that should come in taxes. I would argue they probably don't pay as many taxes as they could, should, or would if they were only able to afford the kind of accountants the Australian government has. You'll figure that out if you don't understand it. The Australian government has shithouse accountants. Otherwise, we'd be making money, not losing it. No, won't help your personal ego if you're not giving away the money, Albo. It won't be helping out that at all. The tip today, folks, is like it was yesterday. Go out and buy silver. I know a lot of you have reached out to me in the last 24 hours and have told me that you have done just that. In my opinion, I think that's a great idea. Whether it's going to go up much higher this time or how long it's going to sit at 47, will it go up? Will it go down? Look, I don't know, but it's a hell of a lot of fun watching it. And as Paul explained yesterday, the banks are inflating your money away. I thought the 50-cent piece analogy that he used in the show yesterday, and the reason you may have seen that show twice was because after we returned from dinner, YouTube was telling us at this end that the show hadn't uploaded, that it hadn't been played, that everybody was still waiting to see it. And regardless of numerous refreshes and whatnot, it told us that the show wasn't there. So I uploaded just the interview that I did with Paul in the afternoon so that those folks who wanted to could check it out. So if that's... I haven't been back to have a look today, but I think there was probably two things up from last night's show. The longer one is the show. The shorter one is just the Paul interview. So speaking with him about that, if you haven't watched it, go and check it out. The 50-cent analogy was great. Back in 1966, I think he said, the round 50-cent piece was introduced, and it had 1/3 of an ounce of silver in it. Of course, the government realised pretty soon that with silver prices going the way they were, the silver going into the coin was worth more than the coin itself, so that had to change. That makes those coins today, if you happen to have quite a few of them, worthwhile having. Very, very worthwhile having. With 1/3 of an ounce of gold in each one, you only need 3, and you've picked yourself up another ounce. So be looking for those ones. However, he was pointing out that back in those days, in the 60s, that 50-cent piece would buy you your lunch. Now, today, working out the averages with silver and the way that silver has escalated in price, it's still working out at about 15%. And that would be what you would pay today for about your lunch, $12 to $15 to buy your lunch. If you had that 50-cent piece of silver, that 1/3 of an ounce of silver, you could still buy your lunch today with it. However, will the $15 that you get out of your bank buy your lunch, or the 50 cents you could get out of your bank buy your lunch today? No, it won't. It won't even buy the sauce for your lunch, as Paul pointed out. So bear that in mind. Your money in a bank, in a super account, despite it looking like it's growing, is in fact being inflated away, in my opinion. Now, if you've got questions about that and how to get your money out of super, then Cass is your girl. You can email me, or you can email Cass at vofhq.com, and she'll fire you back a questionnaire. Once you answer that, you will know the answer to most of the questions that you would have. If you still have a few questions, you can get a hold of her and join one of her live blogs. She does one every Thursday for about, I don't know how long it goes for, quite some time. You've got to register for that one. So if that's something you want to do, then Cass at vofhq.com, and you can be involved in that Zoom. I think she does on Thursdays, where she answers questions everybody and anybody might have about how to get their money out of super and what to do with it when they do. Right now, the advice is put it into precious metals and bring it home with you. Make sure you've got it close to you, stash it somewhere. I've seen and heard of some extremely creative ways that people are hiding bars of silver. I don't know, they might be hiding bars of gold too, but they're not telling me about those. But boy, I don't want to go into it because it's really self-defeating. But just apply a little lateral thinking, folks. If you're really wondering, and you're struggling with how to store maybe, a few kilos of silver, just have a little lateral thinking and remember what you've done with it. Okay? That's all I'll say right now. But there might be people who are willing to share. But once again, what's the point? If I show everybody where you hide the key, a really great new hiding place for the key for your house, how long before everybody's using it and all the thieves know it? Much better you come up with your own idea. We might be able to throw you a few hints along the way, but I think it's better that you come up with your own. Just a bit of lateral thinking. And boy, some people are so clever, and very good artists. I'm just having a bit of a scan of the chat down here. Daniel, yeah, you've raised a good point there. The exclusive brethren. Yes, they are a hell of a group, the exclusive brethren. And don't get them confused. There was another brethren group. I can't think of what it was called now, but there was another one that was the something or other brethren. But the exclusive brethren is the group we do take a great deal of interest in. Daniel, thank you for pointing that one out. Love to Sunflower. She's hit those show. Hope you're going all right, doll. Life, the universe, and everything is going well done. Dingo Dundee. Love that. That's excellent, man. I hope you're doing all right too. I really do. All right, just seeing if anybody's got any huge questions for me or anything outrageous they particularly want to speak about. Nick Patterson did win against the Victoria Police for his rough arrest during the lockdown. Rosanna, you're 100% right. And the way that they won that case was very interesting. And in fact, the judge who handed down his opinion was scathing. Ari did an interview with Nick. And, absolutely scathing of the lies that the police were telling. Did the judge say that the police were telling lies? No. Did the judge charge any of the police with perjury, lying under oath? Any of those? No, none of that. He did say in his handed down finding that he was shocked and dismayed that the evidence presented by the police did not in any way seem to match up with their own body cams. That says a lot for what's going on in our courts, particularly in Victoria, and can I say in the ACT. Now, Paul Offey is the young bloke who drove the Freedom Truck, a truck he had been working on for months and finally got registered. On the day he got it registered, he filled it full of fuel and headed it south to Canberra, ostensibly to see if he could help. That's what Paul is like. He is just one of the most gentle human beings you'll ever meet, and he just wants to help. Now, Paul has suffered a brain injury. In fact, he's suffered 3 particular incidents in his life where he's lucky to be alive. He was bashed once, and this created a problem for him with mobility, with a limb. He then had a truck tire explode on him in his face. This hit him in the head and did some serious damage and created further brain injury. And over time, Paul's had a couple of other, little things that haven't really increased with the brain injury, but he has suffered from anxiety and certain other bits and pieces that inflict life every day. Now, Paul was following directions the day he had his truck stolen by the Australian Federal Police. I say stolen because it's still sitting in an impound yard in Canberra with a broken window. Now, what was a $250,000 truck is probably written off, is probably worthless because God knows what's taken up residence inside it. The police have done their damnedest to try and sell it out from underneath him. And it was only because of Paul's brother Michael and the huge amount of work that Michael has put into helping Paul defend this case that they weren't able to take it and that they were held to account. Thankfully, there was a federal judge who decided that the police and the Department of Prosecutions in the ACT, at that time led by a complete arsehole named Shane Drumgold, who is being hung out to dry now for many of the decisions he made to prosecute people through that time when everybody was in Canberra and beyond that. However, they have sunk their teeth into this truck and they want it. I don't know why. They feel that Paul needs to go to jail. In fact, they've racked him up with so many charges, so many stupid, ridiculous, completely unprovable charges. And I believe they've done this to try and get him to plead guilty to some lesser charge that would, be a problem. But Paul, be it the brain injury or just the fact that he's a solid human being and refuses to say he did something that he didn't do, refuses to plead guilty to any of the lesser charges. He's going to make them prove that he did anything they say they did. And the things that they say he did are not serious in any way. They are not a serious crime. It's not like he drove the truck through a crowd at 100 kilometres an hour. There was none of that. But he does need your support. On the 24th of next month, he will front the Supreme Court in the ACT. Now, he has a lawyer and a barrister and about half the money to pay them. So you can go and check out Paul's websites. The SafePaulFreedomTruckDriver.com will get it. Type in Freedom Truck and you'll find Paul and a way to donate. If you can help them, that would be absolutely amazing. I understand times are tough for everybody at the moment, but this young man, and if you're into your numerology, then the 24th of the 6th, 2024 comes out to 666. What a hell of a day to be going to court. Thankfully, there is a lot of support for Paul, witness-wise, I mean, and hopefully we can get a few more people, hopefully with a bigger wallet, to help with the barrister particularly. But Paul is going to fight this all the way, or win, lose, or draw, but he is prepared, if he has to go to jail. But the charges are so small and they have been going on now for so long that I would be amazed if they did any of that or were able to maybe steal the truck as what we think was their prime motive behind all of this, to seize the asset, to sell it. Because what happens in the ACT, any assets seized, any fines gathered, they don't go to the ACT government. They go to a fund that's administered by a number of senior legal firms in Canberra. What a lovely part of the world we live in. What a lovely part of the world. Agate, Qatar doesn't pay income tax resources pay at all. I think you'll find that in Saudi Arabia, in the UAE generally, every citizen is given a slice of the profits from the oil. In Saudi Arabia, the Saudis own the businesses, but they do not operate the businesses. They employ Indians or Sri Lankans or anybody else to run them, except the gold souks. They always look after the souks. Gold, silver, precious metals, no. They are owned by the Saudis or the Arabs coming from the land. They're not owned by the Chinese or the Pakistanis or the Indians who are in there working, building, that kind of thing. There's a great story about I think he was a Pakistani crane driver who was working in Dubai, and it may have been on the Burj Khalifa or one of the other extremely tall buildings that they built. Oh, I think it was the one that's got the roller coaster around it. He was working on that, and he had to climb up and down the crane every day to get into it, to operate it. So he actually set himself up a campsite up on top there. There is quite a lot of room up in those cranes on the back deck, and he set himself up a tent on the counterweights and took all his cooking gear and everything else up, craned all that up, got it all over, and stayed up there. That's where he lived while he helped build this building. Never came down. Interesting story. You can go and look it up. Friday night, we're trying to put together a Friday free-for-all because we got told at this meeting the other day, at this lunch the other day, it was hardly a meeting, that the Friday free-for-all is something you guys really like. So we'll talk of some weird and wacky topics. I've been in touch with Bob, and Bob's very happy to come back in on a Friday, but just not this Friday. He's got a few things happening in his life. And in fact, if you are given to saying a few prayers, then keep Bob in your thoughts. At the moment, he's suffering a bit of a medical thing. He's pushing on regardless. It's not cancer, I'll say that far, but it is something significant that he does need to get treated and get in hand. So my thoughts are certainly with him. And if you've got a thought to spare for Bob, maybe you've seen him on some of our past shows. He's certainly had a lot of very interesting information about Antarctica, given that he belonged to a certain air force that flew around the edges of Antarctica and into Antarctica on a number of occasions. Not so much these days, no flying in his life these days, but very switched on man, Bob. So Bob won't be part of it. I've reached out to WikiLeaks chick. Now, many people have followed her from, I think, the first time she came on the show. We've had her on a couple of times. It's been a long time. There has been some news this week about Julian Assange, really great news, and that is the fact that the UK Appeals Court has denied America's request to have Julian Assange transported to America to face his charges, facing 150 plus years in jail. Great news. That means that Julian Assange's team has been given leave to appeal, I think, his deportation or whatever, however that will work, his handover, whereas prior to that, it had all been pretty much done and dusted. He was about to be bagged up and sent to America. Now, there are many of us that don't believe he spent a day in Belmarsh prison. Many of us that believe that wasn't Julian Assange that was dragged out of the Ecuadorian embassy. However, we could be wrong. We could be wrong about so much, but evidence, if you look deep enough, suggests otherwise. So maybe WikiLeaks chick will have something to tell us further about that. And I'm trying to get a few other names that might have their time free on Friday. I haven't had any confirmation yet. And that'll be because one of the important ones I'm trying to reach out to, I haven't reached out to yet. Ding, reminds me I must get a hold of that person tonight and see if they're available. But Friday night should be a bit of fun. Wild Cuz, will you travel to SA in the north? I have a great desire to travel to the north of South Australia. I have a great desire to travel back to Gawler to catch up with our good friend Tim, to go back to Mannum to visit Vince again. I have friends in Coober Pedy, so yes, I would be very interested in going to Coober Pedy. And I think what we would require to get a trip like that in order is a sponsor of the like of South Australian Tourism, so that we can get around and show some folks what you can see and do around outback South Australia. In fact, pretty keen to do a little bit of that sort of travelling right around the country, because that's where the heart of our nation is, folks. It's in the bush. You know, there are still good people there. Many, many, many good people. Not saying they're not in the city. God knows they are. You can find them at my place near you. But in the bush, I don't know, there's just something different. It's that spirit always there to help out the struggles that people in the bush face. We face them together. And, of course, when they party, they really know how to party. So we'd like to bring that fellowship, that community, that citizenship to the rest of the nation, because I think it can catch on. The more people that can see good communities growing, good communities enjoying themselves, good communities being prosperous emotionally, mentally, physically, business-wise, then it'll grow. If we can do more for each other, more will happen for ourselves. I firmly believe that. Our world will get better. And while I don't have grandchildren, it will be a better place for your grandchildren. That's who I'm fighting for. Your grandchildren, their grandchildren, what is to come. It cannot continue on. This money-sucking cycle has to end. People must wake up to what the cabal banks are doing. And the easiest way to remove yourself from that is to get your money and turn it into silver or gold. And Pete from Pinaroo, I'm not sure, I haven't seen his name pop up in there tonight, but Pete from Pinaroo will tell you silver is a wonderful way to trade. And all you've got to do is ask. Now, many people will say, oh, geez, I don't know. I don't know what that's worth. You know, what's that worth? Well, it's pretty easy. Go to ainsley.com.au and right at the very top of the page is the spot price for gold and silver and platinum. You can say, oh, well, right now that's worth $47. Oh, great. Well, okay. We could probably get a couple of breakfasts for that and a coffee each. Throw over a silver coin. Now, that silver coin's only going to retain value, whereas if you throw over a $50 note, the banks are going to inflate that back to nothing. That's just how they work. So do what you can there, folks. Try and help. So, yes, wild Aussie woman, I would love to come to South Australia and catch up with you, wild Aussie woman. I dread to think my wild days are probably best past or best forgotten, certainly on my behalf at any rate. Game over for the Stormtroopers, Timmy. I hope so, mate. I really do hope that is the case with the pushing ahead of what was, I consider, to be very, very detailed information about the forces who are willing to step up to the constitutional sheriffs. If you go back a couple of years in the library of Voice of Freedom shows, you'll see that we spoke to a constitutional sheriff, and I can't remember his name, but he was speaking then about the kinds of people they would be looking for because they didn't have enough numbers, the kinds of study those people would have to have already done, or what kind of qualifications they would already have to have had to be deputised. It wasn't like any old Joe could just walk up and say, here, put a badge on me. And now Ivan Raiklin seems to have filled out a lot more detail into what that plan could be. I think that's going to be a keep that one. Keep that one. Zippy, you've been off to a dentist? Oh, Lord, don't talk to me about dentists. You went to a holistic dentist. Does that mean you just thought about it and got better? I don't know how that works. Holistic dentists. A number of people have told me that I should maybe try the holistic dental approach. Some have actually sent me the name of this clay that helps regrow teeth and whatnot. It does seem to be very expensive, and I mean like bloody expensive. However, each to their own. I can't afford that. Not until my super comes out at any rate. Oh, Pete, you are in the building. Nice to have you around, mate. You do deals with people and a gift of silver 1 Ausru, and so when you retire, sell it and have a meal and drink on me. Yep, I gave away. I gave every member of my family. It's not a large family. So mum, my sister, and her 2 kids, and my daughter. I gave them each a Skippy at Christmas. And I was really happy to do so. Had to explain to them what it was for the most part. Or mum had a bit of an idea, and Laura, of course, but yeah, not the others. Zippy, the clay, you've got me right at the moment. I will get the name of it. It's in an email. I'll have to try and dig it out, mate. But yeah, there is this. I don't know. Bentonite clay. I don't think it is. I just have that in my head at the moment for some reason. However, if it was, you could probably push that into any holes in your teeth and sculpt something nice out of it if you could get it dry. It is bentonite clay. There you go, Helen. Thank you so much. Yes, I think it wasn't sure, but yes, bentonite clay. Very, very good for gum health too, apparently, according to somebody I was speaking to. So, yeah. Dusty, I'm only seeing this part of the conversation. I'm not exactly sure why you're willing to put yourself out to stud. Oh, no. I probably know why you're willing to put yourself out to stud. The question is, are you stud material? I mean, plenty of bulls come into the paddock. Only a few cows walk out with the job done. All down to the bull. Hey, Jack, nice to see you in too, mate. Glad you're in. You purchased what? A denture repair kit. I saw one of those the other day in at Bunnings, a denture repair kit. It was like 3 lots of epoxy glue in 3 different one squeezable injectable thing. I thought that's what that was. Maybe it's the same kind of thing. I was being facetious, but it's probably something just like that with epoxies. What else is going on in the world? Yeah, tree life. I like that point. Do you know it's not just the procrastination? We're all exchanging DNA. We are a community in this entire ecosystem. When we touch each other, we share. You are 100% right. And I haven't watched it in a while, but the Tree of Life from Avatar, when you see the Tree of Life and how it's connected to everything, that's us. That's us. And as it turns out, we're connected via frequency, via energy. I watched a fabulous thing today. You might have seen it on one of your channels too. They were talking about the Chicago World's Fair back in the day in the 1800s. And it was Tesla's World Fair where he introduced his electricity to the world, where he took the power from Niagara Falls and used it in Buffalo, some fair distance away from Niagara Falls. The lights that were involved in that World Expo had more lights than New York City for the 6 months that it ran. It was a beacon. And 2 weeks after it finished, it was torn down. Marble buildings torn down, buried, thrown into landfill. Very interesting times. Very interesting times indeed. Bentonite's great for sealing leaking dams and hydrophobic soils in garden beds. Well, it's not bad for your teeth either, apparently. That'd be where I thought I knew bentonite clay from. It had more to do with the soils than anything else, but there you go. H2 Fuel Macca, if you want to know more about H2 Fuel, h2 at vofhq.com. Hydrogen in your system, I can't recommend it enough. And Tim Dwyer has, I know there are a number of other hydrogen systems on the market. Some of them, all of them are very different to what Tim is offering. And I think for good reason. If you get the hydrogen fuel mix wrong, you're going to burn or blow holes in your pistons, or worse still, take the top off the motor. If you get it wrong. Now, a lot of people are having issues with certain other products that are being sold in this general area. And I keep getting phone calls, or not so much phone calls, but emails about it, asking whether or not Tim might have a fix for it. Now, Tim doesn't fix other people's problems, not like that anyway. If you have a system that isn't the H2 Fuel Save system, then go back to them and see what they can do for you. I would tell you that Tim's system, and having had a bit of a chat with Skipper Pete the other day, again, about his system that he installed in his vehicle in Ingham, and he's running it in a big old Land Cruiser, he couldn't be more happy. He is getting 150 to 200 Ks further out of every tank, and he is getting better power, better torque, better everything across the board. Pulled the oil out of it after a 10,000 kilometre journey, and oil was as good as it was the day he put it in. So I've got to say, pretty impressed with the H2 system here as well. It works exceptionally well on our petrol system, and when the LPG system worked, it was bloody great on that as well. Hopefully the LPG system will be back up and working in the not too distant future. I know a man, the man is coming. It's not Vince, it'll be a different man, and you will enjoy the evenings we spend having a chat with him while he's here. I hope he will ordain us to sit around the campfire, and we will have a couple of very interesting yarns about some very important matters that are happening in the country right now. If you don't know about them, then when he gets here, it'll be a pretty interesting learning experience for most people. Speaking of learning experiences, I've been asked about old shows and where people can go and watch them. Well, you can go back on YouTube, but for those of you that don't particularly need to watch this face, you just want to listen to what's going on, I am going to start downloading and then uploading just the audio versions of this for podcasts. I haven't found a place to podcast it just yet, but in the next little while, I will upload a lot of old content, just audio-wise, so that if you want to go back and have a look at some of the things that I consider worthwhile, maybe, you know, in hindsight, being able to go back and have a look at. For instance, all the Bosie interviews might be interesting to go back and have a look at. I've downloaded all of those. And more particularly, if you haven't already gone to vofhq.com and availed yourself of the Magna Carta series there, I understand a lot of people don't want to download the videos for that because it chews up their bandwidth, and particularly if you're on a pay-as-you-go card, that can suck up your bandwidth real quick. But podcasts are a different matter. So I am going to turn every one of the Magna Carta lessons that I have, which I think is 31 of them, into podcasts. So you can download those. There'll be a link to be able to do that off the VOFHQ website, and hopefully that'll happen inside the next week or so. We are beta testing the FBNmedia.online website in the next little while. I've got to write a couple of blogs, and we're going to post them up, see what they look like. So don't expect too much earth-shattering writing from me. It might be gibberish for the first little while until we figure out what we're doing. But following that, we'd love to see your support at the website, both FBNmedia.online and the FBN Media YouTube channel. If you haven't already liked and subscribed to it, please go and like and subscribe to it. We need to get our numbers up to a point where we can start streaming some things on there or showing some other live type events on there. And might have a little bit of news for that about that in the near future too. I'm going to pop out and do a live stream on the 26th of May. It's only a few days away, really. And I'm really looking forward to it. There is a vintage motorcycle event happening near me. So I'm going to take out a couple of bits of equipment here, and we'll see whether or not we can't do a bit of a live stream from that. I'd love to walk you around and show you some of the magnificent machines that I'm sure will be at this event. So if you have a love of vintage motorcycles, that'll happen over the weekend, this coming weekend as well. So look forward to having your company for that if you so desire. All right, folks, going to love you and leave you for tonight. I was out of bed very early this morning, and so was Vince. And I haven't seen him participating, although he might be in the Rumble channel having a bit of a chat, or he is flat out snoring, which could well be the case. So God love him. Couldn't have done any of this work without him. So I'd just like to thank him so much. So good night from Vince off the beach at Burley Heads. And you make sure you watch out for those dickheads on the roads, folks. Be safe. Talk to you tomorrow.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!
Now, there's a tip if I ever saw one. I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to wash out of your mouth, but there's a tip if I ever saw one.